All rise.
The Kosovo Specialist Chambers is now in session.
Good morning. Mr. Court Officer, can you please call the case?
Good morning, Your Honors. This is file number KCBC 2020-05, the Specialist Prosecutor versus Salih Mustafa.
Thank you. Let us call appearances. Madam Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Good morning, Your Honors. Thank you. The Specialist Prosecutor's Office today is represented by Associate Prosecutor Filippo De Minicis, Case Manager Julie Mann, and myself, Silvia D'Ascoli, Associate Prosecutor. Thank you.
Victims' Counsel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honors. Good morning, Your Honors. Good morning, everybody. The participating victims are represented today by myself, Brechtje Vossenberg, co-counsel. Thank you.
Thank you. Defense Counsel, you have the floor.
Good morning, Your Honor. Defense is represented by Mr. Betim Shala, my co-counsel, interpreter, investigator, Mr. Fatmir Pillai, myself, Julius von Monet. Attending today is also Mr. Mustafa in the courtroom.
Very well. And for the record, you're appearing in front of Trial Panel 1. We will continue today with the testing of witness 500, Mr. Borovci. Madam Court Usher, can you please usher the witness into the courtroom? Mr. Borovci, good morning. Welcome back to the Specialist Chambers. Can you hear me?
Good morning to you and to everybody in the hall.
Did you have time to rest?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Very well. Mr. Borovci, I remind you that you are still under oath and you have the obligation to tell the truth. We will now continue with the question by the prosecutor. Madam Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Your Honors. I reviewed what was done yesterday, and we don't have further questions for Mr. Borovci.
Thank you, Madam Prosecutor. Victims' Counsel, we already, yesterday, it was indicated by the Victims' Counsel that you did not intend to proceed with any questioning. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Your Honors. That's correct.
Very well. Defense Counsel, do you wish to proceed with the redirect examination of the witness? Mike, please.
Yes, Your Honor, we have a couple of questions.
Very well. Please proceed.
Good morning. Mr. Witness,
Good morning.
we're shown a photograph of you of Facebook. And on that photograph, and that posting was with Mr. Ibrahim Mehmetai, also known as Bimi to us.
You have a reference in the transcript, Defense Counsel?
The reference, I have the reference of the Facebook post. It's 003 2571, and the reference in the transcript is of the page 79. In that you were asked a question, and you told us that you and Mr. Mehmetai are friends, right? And then your answer was yes, line 15 and 16 on page 79. Now, the fact that you are friends with Mr. Mehmetai, Mr. Borovci, did that make any difference in anything of your testimony here in court yesterday or today?
What I said yesterday, I can say today too. He was my friend. We are neighbors. We grew up together.
Any difference in the testimony that you gave to the court here about your whereabouts or any other thing that you said here in court?
No, because as I said, he's my friend, my neighbor.
Did you discuss with Mr. Mehmetai anything regarding what you would testify here in court?
We have not discussed about the court, but we have discussed political issues because I am an activist of the LDK and he is also an activist of the PAK. So we have discussed together about issues we are dealing with as entities, and we meet. We are neighbors, we are friends, we grew up together.
Thank you very much. Did anybody else actually ever ask you to say something that would benefit, in particular, Mr. Mustafa? Did anybody ask you that to say that here in court?
No.
Did you, in your testimony that you gave, did you, in that testimony that you gave, told the truth?
I told the truth before you in the statement as well as yesterday and today, both then and now.
Yesterday, there was one yesterday, Mr. Borovci, the prosecution asked you about the date of your arrival in Butovs. It was on page 83, and it is lines 23 to 25. Now, I do not want to go into that discussion again, but I do want to know one thing about you, about the time that you were in Butovs. And at the time that you were in Butovs, was that the time of the Muslim holiday Bayram?
Yes, it was the 31st, and we stay there until the 12th of June, when the NATO forces entered Pristina and all over Kosovo.
Care about the dates. I just care about the Muslim holiday event. Okay, and do you recall how, in what circumstances that Muslim holiday was celebrated, if I can use that terminology within that circumstance?
Yes, in sign of respect for that holiday of the Muslim celebration, Bayram, then yesterday and today I have used the word celebration. But in the circumstances to which the civilian population were subjected, we couldn't have a real celebration, but they did have or follow that holiday. But unlike our tradition as Muslims, we couldn't do that because we didn't have the conditions or the means to prepare for. We lacked the elementary conditions, but we respected it as a holiday, Muslim holiday. But the situation was very serious, and I said it yesterday too. And we didn't expect that a regime, that is the Serb regime, could observe that holiday when it didn't respect the life of people, let alone Bayram. So I try to recount what I could about that period, about which I testified yesterday and today.
Mr. Borovci, have you ever had any insight in the statements that Mr. Mustafa has made when he was interviewed by the SBO? Yesterday there was a portion to you shown, but my question is more general. In any of the statements that he gave to the SBO, have you ever gotten any insight in those statements?
I have to be clear and precise here. I didn't pay much attention to the statements. It was a new thing for me. I read it here. Other than through the media outlets through which we were informed and portals. Otherwise, I didn't pay, special attention. Also, maybe because I am convinced of the purity of the figure of Salih Mustafa and his innocence, and thinking that the indictment brought against him.
Please stick to answering the question you were posed.
And I think you have answered the question, Mr. Witness. Unless just to clarify, could you just say yes or no? Have you had any insight in the statements that Mr. Mustafa ever gave to the Special Prosecution's Office?
Only through the portals, the newspapers. And your page. That is what is published in the newspapers. Otherwise, I didn't have any other information from anyone. So, as I said, through the media, electronic media.
A document was shown to you. Was that the first time that you saw that document? And I mean the document that the Madam
Is there
Prosecutor showed you, and that was a portion of the statement of Mr. Mustafa.
Do you have the reference,
Yeah,
Defense
I'm trying
Counsel?
to
I
get the
understand.
reference for you, Your Honor. The reference.
Your Honors, if
I
I,
think,
can be of assistance.
Yeah, I think it starts.
I have
The-
also a reference here.
I have. I think it starts at page 97, where the document was pulled up. It was 069404 TRET. It is page 97 of the transcript of yesterday, line 23 and 25.
Thank you,
think
Defense
that is
Counsel.
where
That was also
that
the
was,
reference
Yeah.
I
So
received.
my question was to you, was that the first time that you saw that document in your life?
Yes, it was the first time that I saw it yesterday.
Do you actually know if do you know actually what the context was in which the statements that you were shown were given by Mr. Mustafa? Do you know the context in which these were given?
Don't know.
The question is, can you actually know whether these statements were accurate or not?
Kisha reserva?
I had my reservation. Because the 2 first weeks of April, the beginning of April, I may not be very careful in terms of 1 or 2 days, but the way I said it, I had the opportunity to meet him 3 or 4 other days after the second and the third date, that is April. But then it was the first occasion I met him. Sorry, I saw him on the screen. Otherwise, I didn't know anything about him. It was the first time for me to see him.
What you told here in court about when, in which period you saw him there in Butovts, was that correct, what you stated?
Më shpëton
Because of the time that has passed, something I may not remember it, but if I say something, I am sure about it. This is what I said in my statement, I said yesterday under oath, and I'm saying today too. That it's accurate the way I put it.
Thank you very much. Let me consult for a moment, Your Honor.
Defense Counsel, a remark from my side. In line 17 of page 8, you say, and what you told here in court about when, in which period you saw him there in Butovts, was that correct, what you stated? there has been some questioning about dates and moments in time. I think this is a very general question that embarks a lot, and also questions that were posed in order to clarify what dates he meant and what period. So I think this is kind of too large. You should specify in this regard.
Well, Your Honor, I actually do not see to further specify this, because I started already earlier with the fact that I was not interested in the date, but just in the event, and that was basically what I wanted to have clarified, and that's all I wanted to make sure.
That's completely
So,
up to you, but I
yeah.
point out to you that it's a very large and general question. So I
Yes.
leave it up to you if you don't want to go into details.
Sure. I just want to consult something, Your Honor. Oh, the microphone. I keep forgetting them. Thank you very much, Your Honor. We have no further question. I thank the witness for his statements and his testimony and your time.
Thank you, Defense Counsel. I now turn to the SPO. Do you wish to proceed with the rejoinder examination of this witness?
No, Your Honors, we don't have further questions. Thank you.
Okay, very well. Victims Counsel, do you wish to re-examine the witness?
No, thank you, Your Honors.
Now, then we are at the next phase, Mr. Borowci. You have been asked several questions by the parties, and I ask you to bear a little bit more with us, because the panel would also like to ask you some questions to get some clarification with regard to your testimony in court and your prior statement. And I will give the floor to my colleague on my left-hand side for further questions.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Judge. I have a few questions for you, Mr. Borowci, and I will refer to your statement of 31st March 2021, DSM 00572. And it's page 3 of your statement to the Defense Counsel. And I'm going to quote what you said. We come now to the 28th of March 1999. This was the times, these days and the days before, and I tell you what I heard with my own eyes and ears. Then, the 28th of March, the paramilitary forces came from 3 different directions. On the same page, all the houses here in Pristina got abandoned. So, in the 28th of March 1999, we got accommodated into some uninhabitable houses in stables. Some of us, we accommodated ourselves in the house of Professor Mustafa. On the very same page, you repeat 3 times. And you seem to be very certain about the 28th of March. Could you explain why you were so sure at that time?
What I said yesterday, I was certain because I connected it to the holiday of Small Bayram. Nothing has changed. Only the displacement from 28th to the 31st. So we stayed there until the 31st, thinking that 28 was the beginning of the Bayram. I said 28. So on the 31st, we moved out of where we were in Belani. On the 31st, people moved out of other parts of Pristina. 31st was the date when all of us were displaced, not because we liked it, but because we were forced to do that.
Okay. Although at that time you did not refer at all to that Muslim feast in order to put the date at 28.
Besoj që e kum
I believe I referred to the Muslim feast. It is in the material of the lawyer.
Note on that page when you refer 3 times to 28 March, it is not on the following page, DSM 00573. I know what you are going to say, Defense Counsel. The following page when you state, and this is where you arrive on the 28th of March. Yes, and we stayed there in that part. It is actually on the page DSM 00575. When we arrived on 28th of March in Butovsk, I did not meet him there. We knew him from before. However, in that period, we call it the little holiday of Muslims, Eid al-Adha. It was most probably on that day that we were expelled. So I understand, but I understand also that you had a couple of days after this holiday, Salih Mustafa came to the professor. So it was shortly after, maybe the 2nd or 3rd of April, or the first week of April. I'm just wondering why, whereas you refer all the time to 28, but I think that now you have given an explanation, so I will not insist on that. I go now to your statement of yesterday, page 17, lines 2 to 7, where the following is stated. Question: and when did you actually leave? When was that? How long was that after the 24 March NATO airstrikes? Do you recall the date? Answer: yes, I remember the date. It was the end of March. In my statement, indeed, I have said 28 March. But since I am under oath, we didn't leave on the 28th, but at the end of March. So on 31st March, we were obliged to leave Pristina. I have a question here. Why do you refer to your previous statement, whereas that statement at that time was not put to you by the Defense Counsel?
Në vetëm e përshkruaj
I only describe the situation, the circumstances in which we had to move out, and the reason and the aim why, and the date. It's accurate as you put it. I described the situation, the circumstances, the developments, and how we came up to the point of displacement at the end of March, namely the 31st of March.
Why, at that particular moment, responding to the question of the Defense Counsel, why do you refer to your previous statement?
unë edhe një herë do thotë ju
I referred to the date of 31st because the 24th of March, the date of the strikes, until the 31st, every day there were important developments. Not a day passed by without an important event. But I focused on the main ones.
Okay. My second question, in relation to what you said, is that you explained to the Defense Council, but since I am under oath, we didn't leave on the 28th, but at the end of March. Why do you make this relation between being under oath and that it was 28th and not 31st? Could you explain that?
For in the Rora
Your Honor, this is precisely the principle of justice that I'm trying to demonstrate. Correcting the 28th to the 31st of March. It is just to serve justice, to serve the truth. It has nothing to do with hiding something. I'm just going back with my memory to the events and the displacement. Two Butovs from Pristina happened not on the 28th but on the 31st of March. I argumented it in a just and clear way, but if there's anything that is still not clear, I'm most willing to help you.
Thank you. I will go back, however, now to another part of your statement yesterday. It's page 23, lines 11 and 12. And you said, but we met, I think, during the second half of April. But then on page 24, lines 17 and 18, you refer to meetings with Mr. Salih Mustafa, and you refer to the first week of April until 15, 16, 17 of April. So did you meet with him between 2nd or 3rd and 17th of April, or did you meet with him in the second half of April?
Your Honor, if there's a mistake in the interpretation, you can see that, but I'm sure what I said on the 2nd and 3rd was the first meeting, whereas the other meetings, I did not say that we met in the second part. What I said was that it can be until the second part of the month of April, which means until the 15th or 16th. The other meetings that I had with Mr. Salih Mustafa were 3 or 4. I did not see or meet him on a daily basis. He was staying with the Sopi family. I was staying with the Rechita family. The location where I was positioned, that vulnerable and dangerous point, when I would end my guard duty, I would go back to Rechita family. There were occasions when on the way back I would go through the house of Mustafa Sopi, that is the house of his house, because there were several Sopi houses, but this one was the house of Smile Sopi. So this was what I was trying to explain, and I stated this clearly yesterday, and I am explaining it further today.
On page 26, lines 9 and 10, you say, Mustafa stayed unless this I didn't see. So you didn't see him every day. That's for sure. Thank you for that. My next question is on page 35 of what you said yesterday, lines 9 and 10. You explained that you were collecting information and passing it to Isa Castrati, And then you said they had their own line. So there was a line of reporting within the KLA. Am I correct in saying that?
Po është saktë.
Yes, that's correct. Again, here, either you did not ask for an answer or it's the interpretation. First, we would pass the information to Issa Kasrat, and I'm talking about the period of 1998, and to Mustafa Sopi. But in 1999, we passed the information to Mustafa Sopi, meaning I personally would pass the information to Issa Castrati because he was the chairman of the branch. I was the vice president of the branch, whereas Mustafa, I knew him from earlier. I've known him for 40 years. He was my professor. So Mustafa had connections with Salih Mustafa, whereas Issa Castrati had connection with the lab operational zone. And he had more knowledge than I and the other comrades had. In case this was not clear or was not understood properly by you, or in case I did not explain it properly, or in case if it's the interpretation, that's why I'm repeating now what I said yesterday.
No, I think now you are much clearer. Thank you very much. So there was two lines of reporting, one which went to Salih Mustafa, and the other one which went to the lab operational zone. That's what you are saying?
Jo inderuar gjykatës.
No, Your Honor. I said in the beginning, during 1999, we informed Issa Kasrati. I'm trying to speak more slowly. We also informed Mustafa Sobi. These two, they were not separate lines because we stayed together with Is and with Mustafa in Mustafa's house or in the houses of other families. Whereas later, I gave the information to Mustafa Sobi because Isa was no longer there. He left for lab operational zone.
Okay. And do you know to whom Mustafa Sopi was reporting?
Na nuk kemi dita.
We didn't know this at the time. I said this yesterday, I'm repeating it today. We did not know to whom Isa or Mustafa were reporting to, but the logic was that Isa had connection with the lab operational zone because he was familiar with that area. He had friends or school friends from the past or friends that he was with in prison. And Mustafa told us that Salih Mustafa was his pupil, that Salih Mustafa was in prison. He told us that Salih Mustafa was of a good family. So he told us all these things before we ourselves knew Salih Mustafa. He would explain to us that he was a patriot and so forth. So based on this information, we would not ask for any other explanation in order to protect Mustafa and ourselves.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Borovsi. Thank you very much. I have no further questions, Madam President.
Thank you. What I will do with regard to the question referring to the transcript on page 23, lines 11 and 12, I will request the language service units if they can revise the translation with regard to during the second half of April and to prepare a note on it. Having said that, Mr. Borowski, we have reached the end of your testimony. Yeah. I would like to thank you for your efforts you have put in giving your testimony, and I am sure it will help us in our efforts to find the truth. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Your Honor, and all your staff. I request, Your Honor, Presiding Judge, I'm not asking for mercy from you, I'm just asking for justice, and I'm deeply convinced that you will take a just decision, that you will thoroughly analyze all the witnesses, that you will not fall prey of witnesses that are false and manipulated, and that you will analyze carefully all of the circumstances in which we operated. And I hope what we went through, not a single nation will have to go through. Once again, I greet you all. I greet Mr. Salih Mustafa as well, whom I consider innocent. Thank you very much, Your Honor, Presiding Judge. We tried to...
I gave you some space.
Microphone, please.
Enough. I gave you some space, Mr. Borowski, but don't overstep the line. Yeah. So, I wish you.
Thank you.
And I remind you not to discuss your testimony before the specialist chambers with anyone. Madam Court Usher will now usher you out. Thank you, Madam Court Usher. Madam Prosecutor, is there something you would like to raise at this moment in time?
Nothing further, Your Honors. Thank you very much.
Very well. Victims' Counsel?
No, thank you, Your Honors.
Defense Counsel?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Very well. So, now, if you have nothing, and if there's nothing else to raise, and also not from the side of the panel, we will resume next week. That will be the 4th of April, 9:30, with the testimony of witness 600. And I thank the parties, and I thank the Victims' Counsel for their attendance. And I also thank for this morning's session the interpreters, the stenographer, the audiovisual booth, and the security. The hearing is adjourned.
All right.